Hi, we're going to talk about some books. Then the next book I read was Deathnote Volume 3 by Tsugumi, Ohba and Takeshi Obata. Anyway, so I've been reading a volume of this manga series, one a month. This month is March, so I read the third volume. This is a manga series, and I've talked about this in previous videos. The premise is there is this notebook that if you write someone's name down, they die. Light is an older teenage student, and he gets given this notebook and decides to use it to get rid of all the criminals in mostly Japan. Yeah, I really enjoyed this volume. I have decided this month to not read my usual Fruits Basket and Comic Up Communicate because there's not a lot of volumes of those left that I have, so it's just this one. Now we get to a lot of graphic novels, memoirs mostly, graphic memoirs rereads. The first graphic memoir I reread was Hostage by Delisle. This book is based on a Christopher story. Delisle interviewed him. Here is that. Some time ago, Christopher was taken hostage, and this is his story. Some of the art. I hope you can see that right. It was really good to reread this memoir. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it was a different reading experience because, of course, this time around, this is the first time that I reread this. I, of course, already knew how things were gonna happen and stuff, and you know, everything. So this was a great read. Then I reread Lighter Than My Shadow by Katie Green. This is a graphic memoir about a woman and her eating disorder. Definitely triggering warnings for eating disorder, as well as some other things. I can tell you if you want to know, but it can also be considered spoilers. This is, I think, one of my favorite graphic memoirs. It is quite heavy, it's quite long, it's brilliant, in my opinion. Don't read it though if certain things might trigger you. But yeah. Here is the back. Don't know if you can see that. I'll show you some of the art if I can, because it is a bit heavy to hold up. But yeah, it was really great to reread this. I loved it just like the first time. I think it was at this point that I wanted I wanted to read some familiar books, so that's what other rereads. Then I reread Mishadra by Iasmin Omar Ata. This is a graphic novel, but it is based on the author's own experiences with epilepsy. So this is about a student named Isaac, and he has epilepsy, and he's an epileptic, and he's doing a study. I can't quite remember what he studies, but his epilepsy attacks make it a lot harder for him. And again, I'm gonna try and show you some of the art. Again, a really nice book to reread. Really liked it. What I particularly really like about this book is how the epilepsy and the attacks are drawn and shown. It also shows that how the main character, how often doctors don't believe him and, you know, think it's just in your head, you know, it's just psychological rather than that's actually something going on. Yeah, really liked it. Next up, Quiet Girl in a Noisy World by Tung. This is her graphic memoir about being an introvert. I think this is her debut. Here's the background. And art. These are more a bit looser comic panels, but there is one overarching sort of story, but then it's a memoir, so yeah. Anyway, I like this a lot to relate to, in terms of being an introvert, that is. I can't relate to her part about working in an office because I like this a lot. And next up, Debbie Tung's second book, Book Love. I have already made a video about this book last year, or I discussed it in some video. I know some of my friends on YouTube have read this also. They recommended it. It was amazing to reread it. Loved it again. Really good as a bookish gift as well. Just all about the love for books, and yeah. Then I reread Little Moments of Love by Catana Chetwynd, and these are like comic panels about Catana and her boyfriend. I think his name is John. Yeah, John. Yeah. This was nice. I enjoyed it less than the first time when I read this for some reason. I think because now this month I read so many graphic memoirs. I'm not sure if you could call this that, but there's more to come that I'm gonna talk about. That I enjoyed it, but in comparison to some of the other ones, it's not a favorite, if that makes sense. But it was a nice read. Then we get to 3 books by Sarah Andersen. Adulthood is a Myth, Big Mushy Happy Lump, and Herding Cats. Books 1, 2, and 3 in the Sarah Scribbles collection. I don't know if there's going to be more or not. One great thing about these covers is that this and the tile is felt. And same here and here. And I like that, but you know. So these are again like comic panels about Sarah's life as an adult. I enjoyed the first one the most. Again, these were rereads, but it was nice to reread all of these. Yeah. Not sure that I can explain why I enjoyed the first one the most. It was that way the first time around. I enjoyed them a bit more similarly now. Yeah, just enjoyable. Then Volwassen worden optioneel by Marloes de Vries. This is also a book about becoming an adult. And it is also like cartoon based. Also sort of a graphic memoir. This one is by a Dutch author though, and written in Dutch. And I also really enjoyed this one. Yeah. Then we have The Warrior's Guide to Life by Gemma Correll. And this one's a bit hard to explain because there's not like one story. Sometimes it's just like certain drawings with certain items with funny like types or something, but I'm not sure that I can explain it all that well. This was a nice read, but didn't enjoy it as much upon reread as the first time around. Some pages I really liked, but others I didn't always get the references, or yeah, I'm not sure I can explain it, but like there are other books that are more helpful regarding anxiety, whereas this is more like funny, which is nice, but it was maybe not what I needed right now, but it was still a nice read. Then we get to Hyperbole and a Half by Allie Brosh. This was also a reread. I loved this the first time around. I loved this the second time around. This book is based on blog posts, I think, by the author. Just, I laughed out loud so many times rereading this book. And here's the back. I don't know if you can see that. The book has illustrations as well as text. And it was hilarious. Quite a few things I related to. My favourite chapters the first time around were the ones about depression, which I still really appreciate it now. There has been talk of a sequel for a while, but there's very little information to be found as the author frequently disappears from the internet, which is her personal choice. I hope we'll see that sequel sometime because this was amazing, funny, loved it. But yeah, I hope she's doing okay. Then we get to Everyone's an Aliebn when you're an Aliebn too by Jomny's son. This is a graphic novel about an alien who visits the Earth and who is trying to find out what it means to be human. This alien talks to all sorts of animals and plants. Yeah, I really like this. It has some sort of wise lessons about life, and it was a really good reread. Again, a reread. Then I reread El Defo by Cece Bell with colouring by David Lasky. This is a graphic memoir based on Cece Bell's childhood, except that all the characters are, well, I'm not sure if they're rabbits or hares, but either way, rabbits, I suppose. And Cece is deaf, and she needs to wear a hearing aid, and so this is kind of her childhood story of dealing with all of that. I loved rereading this, just like I really liked it the first time around. The author does say this is not everybody's deaf experience, this is just her experience. So if you do read it, be sure to read her afterward. Yeah, I really liked this. The next book I finished was Chance of a Ghost by A.J. Copperman. This is book 4 in the Haunted Guesthouse mystery series. I read this book together with my friend Sarah. And in this series, this is a cozy mystery series. The main character is Andersen, and she bought this old, big guest house. She's done it up, and she has guests staying in the rooms. In the first book, it turns out there's 2 ghosts living in the house, and so these ghosts help Andersen solve cases. So this is a cozy mystery series with paranormal elements. Andersen also has a young daughter named Melissa. There's her mother. She is divorced from a person she calls the swine because he was mean to her. There's also Andersen's friends. And in this book they have to solve the case of a ghost named Lawrence. Yeah, I really enjoyed this cozy mystery series. I don't read a lot of cozy mysteries. It's funny in places, and yeah, I really liked it. My dad's talking in the other room. I hope you can't hear it that much, but you know, it's not really doable for me to wait until he's finished with his conversation, because then there'll soon be another one. He gets a lot of phone calls, so yeah. Anyway, the next book I read, and this was a new to me read, was Strange Planet by Nathan W. Pyle. And this book is kind of about these aliens who are trying to live like humans, I guess. It's a bit difficult to explain. It's like different comics. It's funny. Yeah, and I enjoyed it. Yeah, you might have seen these around on the internet, I'm not sure, but yeah, it was a nice read. Then, time for more rereads, because I reread Heartstopper Volume 1 and Heartstopper Volume 2, and then for the first time I read Heartstopper Volume 3. These are all by Alice Oseman. Heartstopper Volume 3 recently came out. These are based on Heartstopper, which comics that Alice Oseman draws and then puts online. I like to support the author and read the graphic bind-ups, but you can read this for free. I support the Kickstarter And so my book volume 1 is the Kickstarter version. It is also signed, which I don't have that many signed books, so anyway, it was really nice to reread this first volume, second volume, and to read book volume 3. This series is about Nick and Charlie. They're two teenage boys, they're in love. It's very cute, very adorable, heartwarming, something that's really good to read in these difficult times. In volume 3, they go to Paris, and I like that this volume also touched upon some more some mental health issues, let me put it that way. I really look forward to read volume 4, obviously. I think the author said there's going to be 5 volumes in total, probably. So yeah, Heartstopper would definitely recommend. I know a few of you have read these. So okay, a couple more books left to talk about. My next reread was The Prince and the Dressmaker by Jen Wang. This book is about a prince named Sebastian, and the book takes place in Paris in historical times, but I'm not sure. I'm sure it's set somewhere, didn't it? But I can't find it now when the story is meant to take place. But anyway, so it's historical fiction, graphic novel. The prince, Sebastian, he likes to dress up in dresses. So he hires Frances, a girl who's a dressmaker, to make him dresses. Obviously it's a secret, as his parents, the king and queen, and the general people would not approve. So yeah, this was again a really great reread. I love this again. I mean, obviously I mostly picked books I loved to reread, so you know, not that strange that I have so many great reads this month, but yeah. Then I reread Nimona by Noelle Stevenson. This is a graphic novel. It's fantasy. I loved it the first time around. I also loved it the second time around. This book is about Nimona, who starts to work as a sidekick for the villain Lord Blackheart. It's quite funny. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. Nimona is a shapeshifter, and yeah, it was amazing. Last 2 books. Again a reread. This is Chaos met Autisme by Sigrid Landman. In part 1 of this wrap up, I discussed Moederen met Autisme, which is the author's debut book. This is the sequel, book 2, but the sequel to Moederen met Autisme, which I talked about earlier in this video, so I'm going to be quick about this one. I read this from the library last year, liked it so much that I decided to buy all the author's books. It was really nice to reread this. It did make, it can also be read on its own, as the author does talk about what's happened, but obviously now that I've read book 1, some of the things that were in this book were quite familiar to me because I've just read book 1. But yeah, this was again a great reread, and I look forward to read the other 4 books by the author that I haven't read before. So yeah, this is basically in continuation of the memoir. So in this book, the autistic daughter is older. Obviously the autistic mother is also older. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, do skip back in the point of the video where I talk about book 1, but I always do my wrap-ups in the order that I finish the books in. So yeah, really nice. The last book is this book, this huge book. This is The Temporal Void by Peter F. Hamilton. This is book 2 in the Void trilogy. Earlier in this video I discussed book 1, The Dreaming Void. So this is book 2, continues the story. It is massive. It has a similar amount of pages to book 1. It's just that I happened to buy this really big paperback edition, which I didn't know when I ordered it years ago. This was back in the day when I didn't know yet to look up like size information about books and stuff. But anyway, and then book 3 in this trilogy is again a different size. And I hope to reread that one soon. I really enjoyed this continuation. I looked up what I wrote the first time I read this book, because I saved my review of that. This was way before I did book 2, and it seemed the first time I read this, I was a little bit confused at times who some of the characters were, because when I first read this, there was some time between reading the first book and reading the second book. Now, of course, I read both in, you know, close-ish together, so I didn't have such issues, and that helped. So, reading big, epic, adult science fiction or fantasy series. This is science fiction, but I would say if you have a bad memory, don't read the books too far from each other, because you'll get confused. This happens to me a lot. So that's also why I usually like to wait until a series is out before reading it, because then I can read the books close together if I want, and if I'm in the mood for it. So yeah, this was really enjoyable, and that is all the books. Oh, you can see that now. That is all the books I read in March. So yeah, it is 34 books, I believe, and over 10,000 pages, which I don't think I've ever read more than 10,000 pages in a month. I don't think I've ever gone over that. It's always been 4 digits, if that makes sense, rather than 5. That's obviously due to the many graphic novel and memoirs rereads this month. I don't know how things are going to go with my reading next month, you know, in April and later in the year, because of the situation in the world. Sometimes I have trouble concentrating, and so there have been several days where I didn't read much at all, or nothing at all, sort of thing, whereas there were other days where I read lots. For example, some of those graphic memoir rereads that I've discussed, I read, there were some days where I just read several of those in a day, if that makes sense. Yeah, so the current times are difficult for a lot of people, including me. Feel free to leave a comment if you like. I do like to receive nice comments. I hope we can all get through this time together well. And yeah, stay safe, and I hope to see you in my next video. The last few months I've just been doing the monthly wrap-ups and nothing else. I hope to, in the future, make more videos than just the monthly wrap-up of the books I read, but with, you know, having a new house and then doing it up, moving, the current situation in the world, I don't know if I'll have energy to do other videos. We'll see. I did enjoy filming this, but it may be a while before I'm moved and settled in and everything, before I can show my new book room setup. Yeah, so at this point I've mostly been inside or in the garden for quite a few weeks now, because we've been self-isolating longer than that. Our government said stuff about that. I haven't been into any shops for a long time now, and I miss that. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope to see you in my next one. Bye!